What's up, Walking Dead fans? I'm Steven from the Hills Maniacs, and today I'm going to be ranking every episode of the recent Walking Dead spin off series, The Ones Who Live. So, before I get started, I do just want to say I loved this entire series. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was put together really well and acted really well from all the actors in it, especially Danai Gurira and Andrew Lincoln. I think they did one heck of a job putting this show together and giving us the closure for these two characters that everyone's been longing for all these years since Rick left the original Walking Dead series and all the years in between until the series itself ended. So if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you do go check it out. But I kind of wanted to look back at each of the episodes and give my thoughts on each one, and just kind of wanted to rank all 6 episodes because they were all really good. It was hard to kind of make this list just because of how good each episode was and how good the series overall was. But when I think back to it, there were some episodes that were slightly better than others. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this in this video today. So let's get started with number 6, because there were 6 episodes, so it's going to start with number 6 and go up to number 1. So number 6 for me is actually episode 5, where this is the episode where Jadis tracks down Rick and Michonne after they escaped the CRM in the last technically 2 episodes, but really episode 3 was where they got their escape, and episode 4 was kind of just the aftermath of that, Rick and Michonne's whole argument, which I'll get into in a little bit when I talk about where I rank that episode. But I feel like comparatively speaking to all the other episodes, this one didn't really have much that actually happened because it was all happening at once, and the episode was filled with different flashbacks to Jadis and Father Gabriel that we didn't see in the original series. It was meant to show that she's been keeping in contact with him all this time. But other than those things, it really wasn't that much going on with Rick and Michonne in the episode other than them being tracked down by Jadis, and Jadis finding these random people to recruit and help her track them down. The only really important thing that happened in this episode was when Jadis, basically at the end of her life, because she is dying by the end of this episode, she does reveal to them where she has the files or whatever that she wrote up about Alexandria and who Rick and Michonne are and everything else. And those are the files that she was using to blackmail Rick into staying at the CRM in the first place. So she kind of reveals where that is. But other than that stuff, nothing really happened in this episode. That's why I felt it was kind of the weakest of all the episodes. It was still important, obviously, but it was kind of that filler episode just to get us to the finale. It did give us the reason, or give Rick and Michonne the reason to return to the CRM in episode 6, to kind of go get those files and take down the CRM at the same time. That's what gave them the reason to go back and to drag it out for one more episode. Essentially, they probably could have just left after this point. So it was at least important there, but I feel like there were a lot better episodes than this one. And if this one didn't have the flashbacks, it probably would have been a really short, maybe 20-minute episode almost. So they had to sprinkle that kind of stuff in there, and that's why I feel like it was weaker than all the other episodes. For number 5, I put episode 3. This is the episode after Rick and Michonne found each other in the previous 2 episodes, technically, because it showed episode 1 was Rick's perspective, episode 2 was Michonne's, and at the end of both, it showed them finally coming back together again. So episode 3 was all about them being at the CRM and them trying to sneak around so they can talk to each other. Rick trying to explain to Michonne why they can't leave and how he's been trying all these years and everything else, but he just hasn't been able to escape without them finding him. But kind of similar to what I mentioned with episode 5, there wasn't really a whole lot that happens in this episode either, other than Rick having to explain to Michonne everything that's going on and trying to make sure she leaves. He at one point does come up with this plan where he tricks her and says he's going to leave with her, but then kind of just turns around and goes back, and she ends up almost leaving on her own or whatever because he wasn't with her. And it shows his desperation to get her to leave because he wants her to be safe, and she's safer if she's not at the CRM. While it was good for both characters, and it kind of showed how they've both been struggling with this whole situation where Rick is basically brainwashed into staying there. Like, he feels he has a responsibility to the CRM to stay there, and Michonne's obviously trying to get him to leave. So you do kind of see that struggle there with these characters, and it was some good character work and stuff to play into how both these characters are feeling and how they've been feeling all these years while they were separate from each other. But other than that kind of stuff, I don't feel that there was really anything of importance that happened in this one either. I mean, at least this one didn't just rely on flashbacks to carry the episode like episode 5 did, like I mentioned, with the Jadis flashbacks. So it was still better than episode 5, but I don't feel like as much happened in this one compared to all the other episodes, which I'll get into more when I talk about the next few episodes. Number 4 for me, I kind of flip-flopped 4 and 3 a lot when I was thinking about where to put these on the list. But number 4 is actually episode 2, which was Michonne's journey back to Rick and what she's been doing, and the group that she kind of fell into that helps her get there and stuff. And it kind of gave Michonne a reason to hate the CRM, because all those people that help her end up getting killed by the CRM at one point, at various different points throughout the episode, and you kind of get that sense of anger from her where, like, now she has a reason to go after them, and that's why she ends up targeting the CRM helicopter when she sees it eventually at the end, and of course it turns out to be Rick. Like, I did like this whole journey of how she got there, but I feel like, I'm just going to say it now, at number 3 I put episode 1. I feel like episode 1 was showing Rick's stuff was maybe a little better just because of, it's the first time we're seeing Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead, or in the entire Walking Dead franchise since his death back in the Walking Dead series. So I feel like that one was slightly more better. It actually gave us more of a look into what happened to Rick after Jadis took him away on the helicopter and stuff. So that one was kind of more important. So I did put episode 1 above episode 2. I don't know, I just felt like, I guess it's because of the whole Rick Grimes thing, that episode 1 to me was a little bit better than episode 2. I did like both of them, and I did like that they both ended with Rick and Michonne meeting up, and and the way that it happened and everything else, because I wasn't even expecting that to happen in the first episode, Rick and Michonne meeting each other. So because of the cliffhanger, technically at the end of episode 1, I think is why I like that better than episode 2. For me, number 2 was actually episode 6. I just think the whole conclusion and tying everything together, and Rick and Michonne working together to take down the CRM and put a stop to everything they were doing. I think it was done very well, and it was kind of reminiscent of all those situations in the original Walking Dead series where not just Rick and Michonne, but everyone in the group were in some of those moments where it's really tense and they could be killed at any moment. They're up against the odds, and you see that from both angles. In this case, with Rick and Michonne both struggling to pull off the plan that they had, where Michonne was going to sneak into Jadis's room to find the papers that she said she had, and Rick, of course, was going to figure out a way to destroy everything or find out what the CRM's plan was. So they kind of both had their own little separate things that they had to do, and they still found a way back to each other at the end anyways, to finish off the plan to destroy the whole facility pretty much and put it into the CRM, or at least that branch of the CRM, because they're the most corrupt of all of it, I guess, is how that worked. And they were the group that was going to send out these gas bombs and destroy everything and all that kind of stuff to save the world, So we've seen the characters from The Walking Dead up against those kinds of odds all the time. So this was kind of a nice call back to that in a way, and it brought back those tense moments that we've seen throughout the original series. And I also think it was just cool to see how much Rick has learned how to fight from being in the CRM. At least that's one thing he can take back with him to his family. And of course we see at the end of this that they do make it back to Judith and RJ, and you get the embrace at the end where Rick meets RJ for the first time and that kind of stuff. So I like that it gave him that sort of military training in how to fight and protect himself, and that's something that he could maybe teach his kids how to do going forward, or teach the others as well, because a lot of them aren't trained in combat. Like, they've had to struggle to fight off the walkers as well as fight against other people, and they always seem to get their butts kicked and that kind of stuff, or at least Rick does. So to see him being able to fight with those kind of skills now really adds to his character, I think. And if there is at least one thing he can take from the CRM, it's that, even though he didn't want to be there, he did learn something while he was there that can help him in the future. And I like that we got to see him use those skills against the CRM as well, so it kind of like backfired on them pretty much, because he was able to use that fighting style to fight back. And then Michonne, of course, knows how to fight with a sword and everything else, so she's kind of already well versed in that kind of fighting style. So seeing them two fighting together side by side, both with these skills and both being actually able to fight and have these smarts on how to pull off this whole plan, I feel like was really well done. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the emotional ending of them getting back to their kids. So now we kind of get to see, like, where do they go from here, kind of thing. Or if this is the last time we see Rick and Michonne or whatever in the Walking Dead universe, I think it was a satisfying ending. My number one pick, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me, is episode 4. This is the episode where Rick and Michonne kind of have a huge fight with each other after Michonne pulled Rick out of the helicopter. They find some kind of island or something and end up in a house, and they spend the whole episode there together basically hashing it out, with Michonne trying to get Rick to explain why he doesn't want to leave the CRM. He keeps telling her he feels like he has a responsibility to protect the people there or to work there because he's been there so long. He doesn't want to turn his back on those people because he's gotten to know them. He's kind of been brainwashed, and the whole episode is Michonne trying to get him to remember who he is. And I feel like this episode alone really captured how well these two actors work well together. Because we haven't really got to see, like, just them together that much on the show, I don't think. Like, bits and pieces every now and then, but they're usually with, like, another character, or like they were with Carl or Judith or whatever. We never got to see, like, this true on-screen chemistry between Danai and Andrew. So the fact that we got to see that here, the whole episode literally just shows the two of them and what they're doing. I think it may have had a couple flashes to the people in the CRM, I can't remember, but I know the majority of the episode was spent on Rick and Michonne, and their whole quarrel over, like, why they should be getting back to their kids. They have a chance to now because the helicopter crashed. They can pretend that they were dead. They have the perfect opportunity to leave, and then Rick trying to get Michonne to leave because he wants to go back, and he had to explain that Jadis had those documents and all that kind of stuff that I mentioned earlier. I think it was all really well done. This whole episode could have just been a spin-off on its own or something. Like, it was just fantastic how well executed it was, how well written it was. And I think the best part of the episode was when Rick finally, like, actually sat down and really listened to Michonne, and he was able to tell her the real reason why he's been staying with the CRM. And it's because they took away his sense of purpose, essentially, because he said he used to have dreams of his son Carl, who died in the original series, and then after all these years of being in the CRM, he no longer has those dreams. So he felt like that kind of took that away from him, so he just basically fell back into this, like, shell of his former self, really, where he's just doing what he can to survive at this point, and he kind of lost the reason for why he does what he does in the first place. And I think the symbolism of Michonne handing him back the iPhone that has Carl's drawing on it, I think was just like a beautiful moment. And because she, like, literally gave Carl back to Rick so that he could remember his sense of purpose again, and he could maybe start having those dreams again and remember who Carl was. And that kind of woke him up out of his, like, sleep, or that he's been in from being with the CRM so long. All in all, I felt that episode was truly just a masterclass in acting between these two actors, a masterclass in, like, character continuity and just the struggles of these two characters. I think it was beautifully done, and that's why I think episode 4 was the best episode of this whole series. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. How would you have ranked all the episodes of The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live? What were some of your favorite moments from the show? Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more, and check out every other video we've got on here about The Walking Dead. Thank you for watching the video, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.